Hi, welcome to my channel, Life After Losing My Child. On this channel, I like to talk about my own personal experiences with grief, and the purpose of this channel is to have a place where families that have suffered the loss of a child can come, get honest about grief, seek support, and inspire one another towards our own individual healing processes. If this sounds good to you, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell to stay tuned to my upcoming videos. Today, I like to do something a little different, and we're going to actually have a time of interview. I have a special guest, Kelly Mariano, who's going to be coming on and talking about grief, asking me the tough questions. And since this is a channel where we get honest about grief, this is a time where you can see how grief really has impacted grieving families and parents, and I'm using myself as an example to express really what we go through. I hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned. Hi, so today I like to take time to do things a little different. We're going to do, like I said, an interview today. Here is Kelly Mariano, who has a few questions. And I did it this way to be able to have a real honest element about what I'm doing here. He's going to go over some questions. I have no idea what the questions are, and I'm just going to honestly answer them. This is actually part of a series that we're doing together. Yeah, just found out about that. That we're going to be doing together, and it's actually about the stages of grief. And so I did do a video prior called Grief Comes in Waves, and it is an overview of all the 5 stages of grief. And so with this video, though, we're concentrating more on the first stage of grief, which is denial. So let's get into it.
Hello everyone, this is Kelly Mariano. I'm here with Lydia, and she introed the video, so you probably would already know what the video is going to be about. So we're going to get right into the interview, just to get started right away. And take your time, certainly, with the questions. It's a challenging subject matter to talk about. So the first question is, I want you to just tell us a little bit about Brianna.
Brianna was my firstborn child. She was enthusiastic. She loved life. Everything was so special. The smallest things. She would bring me flowers and be so excited about them. She would tell me about all the things she learned. I don't know if you remember the little boy from Jerry Maguire who used to be like, "Do you know the human brain weighs 8 pounds?" And that was Brianna. She was just very excited, very smart. It's just, I don't know. There's not enough words to really talk about her, I guess, to really put it into words. She was just a special child. Everywhere she went, she made everybody happy. You know what I mean? She could put a smile on everyone's face. She was the kid in a grocery store that would speak to strangers and ask them how their day was, you know. I don't know. She was like the light. Did you say the light of my life? She just really made everything so. Everything was special. You know what I mean? And so, with her passing away, I think that that's something that she gave me. You know, was to realize the beauty in the small things.
Okay.
So that's her. That's her.
So, how long ago did Brianna pass?
5 years.
It's been 5 years. Okay. So I can only imagine what was going on internally in the very beginning stages. Are you able to share any of those thoughts or feelings that you went through initially?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's so many things racing through my mind that are like devastation, shock, you know, agony. I mean, all those things. It's, I don't know. That I guess, like I was pointing out so many times before, and since we're talking about denial, the time that, and I've referenced it a million times, not a million times, but different times in my videos about being at the funeral home. And I think that part right there really rings true for me, I guess, as far as denial, as far as something that I really, really remember is being at that funeral home and the director asking me, you know, to pick out all the stuff. You got to go through all the pricing lists. You got to look at the caskets. You got to do all those things. And sitting at that huge table at the time, it seemed like it was a huge table with all different people were around. So it was my mom, my sister, my friend, my boyfriend at the time, his mom, the funeral director, and just not understanding completely why we were there, you know, why we were there. I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that Brianna was gone, and I think that that's a huge part in the beginning of when you lose your child, the initial shock and the denial is so great that, you know, you just can't imagine having this life without your child. And I think that is something. Yeah, that's something I always remember, and how I turned to my mom and I was telling her, let's go home, you know, Brianna's sitting on the bed and stuff. And I really could see Brianna, and it was kind of like a daydream, I guess. So I was sitting there and I could see her sitting on the bed, and I'm telling my mom, like, why are we here? Let's go home. She's still there, you know, and just being in such denial until my mom was like, no, she's passed away. She died. This, you know, this is real. You have to make decisions. And I just couldn't comprehend. And then when she said, like, this is real, and I got up and I walked out to the funeral home and just, like, was bawling, crying. Like, I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I mean, there's so many things that happen, but I think that was such a big thing. You know what I mean? Like, how your brain just tries to protect itself and put you in that denial state is something I always remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you remember what happened earlier in that day? Do you remember anything like leading up to going to the funeral home? Or do you only remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, because of the way you talk about that memory, that it was likely isolated in a sense for that day.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened actually before that day or after that day.
Wow.
But usually too, I think that you are, well, I was diagnosed with PTSD. So,
Which is?
Well, post-traumatic stress disorder, which they say you block out memories.
Okay.
You have triggers. You have night terrors, so you can't sleep at night because you keep remembering certain things. With my daughter, I actually found her passed away in her bedroom, and I was trying to resuscitate her and all this stuff. So for me, that memory is there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like at the forefront. So when people say, you know, oh, you gotta think of the good times, you gotta, you know, it's a hurdle to get over seeing your dead child before you can access the good memories. That bad, horrible memory is sitting right there.
Okay.
And I gotta jump over that kind of to get to the good times.
So that must be one of the challenges is that people don't understand that. They don't understand that dynamic when they're telling you, when they're giving their advice. So when you mentioned triggers, what? No, you're fine. Take your time. When you mentioned the term triggers, just so that people understand what that means, in case they're not familiar with that concept.
Like a flashback, anything you could see something and it could take you right back to that time. So that would be, or something could be said, it could be a scent, you could smell something that reminds you of your child, and it could take you right back to that moment.
Okay.
Of, I don't want to say terror, but
okay.
Tragedy.
Are there good triggers also that take you back?
There are good triggers that could take you back, but I think sometimes what people don't understand too is when you remember, at least for me, when I remember good times, there's still a bit of a sting that comes with that. There's still, like, it's a good time, but then because she's not here, it always lingers that I won't have any more of those good times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything is bittersweet. Yeah. So.
So would you say that over this 5-year period of time, obviously it may always be an emotional event, right, in your mind or with the way you deal with it, and I don't mean you specifically, just how you have to internalize things. But would you say it's changed over the 5 years? Has it gotten, not the missing part, of course, that part's always going to be there, but does it get any easier, I guess is the thing, that maybe especially folks that have gone through it, may have just gone through it.
Right.
Is it easier, any easier 5 years later? Any easier to deal with or to, I guess to say deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would say easier.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the word I would use, but you learn to adjust maybe better. You learn to process more. And like I tell a lot of the women that have lost children, they come to me and we're talking, and I tell them there is hope that the agony you experience isn't so readily available.
Okay.
That raw feeling where you're just open and everything hurts. I mean, everything hurts. To wake up hurts. To breathe hurts. Because you're still in an existence in a reality without your child. Everything is like a chore. To get showered, to dress, your motivation is totally gone. For me, that was at least like the first year, maybe going into the second year.
Okay.
With time, you learn to adjust. I wouldn't say easier. I wouldn't, because like I had said to my mom, even if I'm 80 years old, my memories of Brianna will only go to 13. How sad is that? How sad is that? That I can only remember my child until she was 13. Like, I don't get any more, and so that's painful. And then I still have a child. I was going to college, getting her driver's license, doing all these great things, but at the same time, realizing I didn't get that with Brianna is hard. It's not to take away from my child that's still here. I'm so excited about everything she's going to do, and that much more too, because I didn't get to do it. So it's like, but I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily get easier. I think you get better. I think you get better at adjusting. You get better at processing your emotions. You get better at understanding, if you allow yourself to. Because we could get stuck in that too.
Oh, I'm certain.
You know what I mean? We could decide that we can't go on. How can we? This and that, and we'll get stuck in one of those stages. And one of the stages might be denial. being stuck right here in this denial and not allowing ourselves to get to other stages or, to process it.
Yeah, I've heard of other people talking about similar loss. Maybe not a child, but maybe a child, maybe some other loved one. But they'll be usually it is a child because they're stuck where the child was. Right. They're still, their whole lives stopped that day, or like in some cases, and maybe you've experienced this where you leave the room exactly the way it was because. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not to articulate. I mean, because I don't know that part, but it seems like when you put that away, it's like packing a person up. You know, like kind of putting them away as well. Now you mentioned the other daughter, Zanai, right? So
wait, I do want to say something real quick because I wanted to be clear too that just because you haven't moved at a certain time, either doesn't mean you're wrong. Because there's no right or wrong way to grieve because you left your child's room that way for however many years. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important. You could do whatever you need to do because it's an individual thing. You know? Okay. And I just say that because I want my audience to know, like, you grieve the way you want to grieve. I have not touched Brianna's things. Yeah, they're in a box. I haven't unpacked them. I don't plan on giving them away, but I haven't touched them yet either, and it's been 5 years. You do what you could do emotionally. Okay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry. I just had that because that's important for me to put out there. Like, people might think it's okay. Like, oh, you need to put their stuff away, or you need to do this or do that, and especially if you don't have support in that area. That could put you in a place of you might not be able to come back mentally.
Yeah, I think people don't appreciate that grief is personal. Right. It's a very personal thing to walk through. But at some point, is there some point at which you would say to a person, listen, maybe you should talk to, maybe you should get some assistance. Would you recommend that right away for anyone, or should they make a determination based on whether or not they feel like they're maybe too stuck or something? Like, what would you say to someone if someone just lost a child? Would you recommend someone get that type of, maybe some kind of grief counseling, like right away? Or do you not? Did you get counseling right away? What did you do?
I went to grief groups right away. Okay. Actually, I'm not going to say the name because I'm just not going to say the name, but I went to a place for parents that have lost children, and we got together around and talked to one another, which was a great thing, because when you lose your child, you feel very isolated. No one understands you, all this stuff. But where I was too, I was looking at people that had lost a child 30, 40 years ago, but we're still crying like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And I felt like I couldn't put myself, like, at that time. I may go back now that I'm stronger. But I'm talking about a week after Brianna died.
Okay.
And I felt like, if this is how you feel 40 years from now, if I'm going to feel like this for the rest of my life, like, there's no way I could deal with this kind of pain forever, looking at you and you're crying like me and yours happened 40. Oh no, so I'm not saying that it's not a good idea. Like you just said, with grief, it's an individual process. I know someone that lost their child and they went to counseling or whatever, therapy shortly after, and they're doing great. Okay. So it all depends on where you're at. You know what I mean? I'm in grief therapy now.
Okay.
And I think it's helpful. Yeah, okay. So it all depends on the person, and then some people could get through it with their friends and their family because they're really supportive and right there and every step of the way. Some people need a therapist. Some people need trauma counseling. Some people need medication. It's all different. So.
Mm-hmm. Now you talked about feeling this pain. Mm-hmm. Kind of all over and you mentioned some other things that went along with that. Is that a degree? I mean, it sounded similar to some of the symptoms of depression. Is that moving into a clinical depression type of thing? Well, you're not a clinician,
Right.
but what would you think that you're moving? That's a part of that equation as well, depression.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's part of the 5 stages.
Oh, that's part of the 5. Okay.
So we'll
See,
get
I was
to
right on
that
point.
in the video. We'll be getting to that. No, but it definitely is part of the territory. I mean, you question everything. I mean, with depression, they say like a major telltale is that you're no longer interested in what you used to be interested in. You know, all different things with the getting out of bed, showering, eating. Your habits have changed. As far as eating, you might overeat, you might undereat, you might not sleep, you may sleep too much, whatever. But it's definitely a part of it. Yeah, it's definitely a part of it. I'm gonna leave that for the depression video. But yeah.
So you told me in previous discussions, that's just sidebar, we've talked about some of the insensitive terms that people will use or insensitive things that people will say. Can you share some of those things that you may have experienced?
Okay. Like
like when you said that people will say, oh, I lost a pet.
Okay.
Or you know, well, at least you have,
yeah,
you know, like another child or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think even, once again, I'm going to stick with the denial part, but I think that one of those that really, when people say, oh, how long, like you said, how long it been? And I say 5 years, and they're like, oh, it's been a long time. Like, and you're kind of, as a grieving parent, you're taken aback because you're like, wait a minute.
Like the implication is we should be good now, right?
Yeah. So it's like saying it's been a long time. That's insensitive. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I can't believe that many years have passed. But for us, it feels like just yesterday. You know, and that's what I was saying in one of my video, the question and comments for grieving parents is that you know, it's a kind of 2-part thing, because even when people say, oh, I guess I'll just leave it at this. When they say, oh, so much time has passed and you feel like it just happened yesterday, with the first year, it felt like it was just yesterday. Second year, felt like it was just yesterday. As time goes on, although it doesn't, like I said, seem like it just happened, at the same time, part of you, I don't want to say if you're in denial or not, but it's like, you don't process time the same way. You know what I mean? Like 5 years, for me, like it feels like, okay, it might have happened a year ago. So now, even though it doesn't feel like it just happened yesterday, it still doesn't feel like 5 years. It feels like maybe it happened last year, year and a half, something. Like our time is off. At least for me. I can't talk for all grieving parents, but for me and for a lot of grieving parents I talk to, they're like, oh my gosh, it just feels like it just happened. Like people don't understand. Like, you know, and like you said, people don't understand. They don't. And it's not even their fault. It's just they didn't experience it, so they don't understand. We're kind of in a time warp or something where we're like, yeah, stuck in this stage and everybody else's life is going and we're still at that moment.
It's interesting. I've never experienced that, of course, but just experiencing traumatic things. And then I remember being at a funeral and kind of looking around, like through that day, looking at other people, like their lives are totally unaffected by what just traumatically impacted mine. Like, okay, my life will never be the same. and you're out shopping.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I can only imagine how much heightened that would be with that type of situation.
Yeah.
So we talked about, and I know you're going to talk about them more in detail, and we're specifically talking about denial. But could you just give a high level of the stages of grief?
Just a highlight, you say?
Yeah, just kind of listing what they all are.
Number one is denial. The second one is anger. The third one is bargaining. Fourth is depression. And fifth is acceptance.
Okay. And is that in order? Once they come?
Yeah.
Okay. But
well, it's in order of what they say that comes.
Okay.
And that's what I talked about in that video.
In your intro?
Grief comes in waves. Yeah, it's in the intro video, and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she developed it, and she dealt with bereavement and death and dying, and she sorry, Werther's original in there, and she actually developed the stages, and she said they were universal, and also that they were kind of in that linear order. And so I was saying before that, even though I felt like they did follow that order somewhat, there were other things too, which I said before. The stages can be stretched out. Even I've seen them as long as 10 stages. So where before denial, there's shock, and then there's other things that come along that people have spread it out. But those are the top 5 that you see throughout. Whether it's 7 stages, 10 stages, whatever, it still includes those 5. So what was the question again?
Well, just to
just
get an understanding and whether or not
yeah.
that was actually the order, because you talked about the fact that they kind of will cycle back to.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I was saying with the video. Grief comes in waves. Is that even though they say it follows some sort of order, and it does, when you initially go through it, you can see that in your life. However, I said it comes in waves because it comes in and it goes out and it comes back, and then sometimes the waves are small and you can feel them. Those are the triggers sometimes. Okay. Where you might smell something, take you back, you can snap yourself out of it. Then there's triggers that come and knock you over, like into the ocean of grief, you know what I mean? And that's why I say they come like waves, because they come in. And even you might feel those waves of emotion, and then they go out, and then they come in. But who knows what kind of waves they're going to be? Are they going to toss you to and fro? Are they just going to be little waves of memories that are good? What is it like? You don't know until you get in that ocean of grief and try to navigate it. So.
That's a good term for it. Ocean of grief.
It is.
How long did I'm presuming? Have you experienced all 5?
Not acceptance. I'm sorry. I'm in the pool of acceptance. I'm just not
like
totally
a wading pool, like you're kind of walking.
Yeah, not totally in there yet. Because I'm not sure what that means.
Okay.
We'll dive into that more, but I'm not sure what acceptance means, because when we say we accept something, it's like we're saying it's okay. I know that's not what it's meant by acceptance, but that's how I'm in my brain saying, well, if I accept it or I'm whatever, am I saying this okay? I'm never going to be okay. You know what I mean? With the fact that she is gone. I don't know. Yeah.
It's hard. It's a hard term.
Yeah, it's hard.
Hard term to come to.
They should have probably renamed it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't know what they would call it. But,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that.
So you talked about the incident regarding denial at the funeral home, but you also shared one with me about was it like a house? Was it like a housewarming essentially? Yeah. So tell them a little bit about that and your experience.
Okay, so like I pointed out that I had to, I found Brianna passed away in her bedroom. So I requested to my rental office to be moved to another apartment because I just couldn't go in there anymore, So they set me up with a new apartment, and my sister and friends and everything came over, invited me over to my sister's house for what I thought was a birthday party. I guess it was supposed to be a surprise thing. I don't even know if I'm remembering it accurately because of the PTSD. I block memories out, so I don't know. But I do remember being there, and they were all, giving me stuff for the new apartment and everything. And I left. I left, and
like temporarily, or you?
I left.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, I came in. I said thank you, whatever, and I remember leaving, and I think that although my friends and family thought that they were doing something great, which they were, oh, you got a new place, oh, this is going to be a new slate and all that. At the same time, to have a housewarming also was, I guess, a trigger, or also brought me back to a place of remembering even why I was having a housewarming. Was because my child died. So now I had to be in a new place. Like, yeah. So that's not, thank you. Thank you for everybody that helped. No, seriously, but the mindset of someone that lost a child is so different than the mindset of everyone that hasn't. Because you're sitting there thinking, I'm going to help them, and it'll be a new start, and but I didn't want a new start. I wanted my child.
The old start, yeah. Exactly. And
so
I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, there's there's a mentality that we can cheer you up.
Yeah.
We can cheer you up, and, things will be better, but it's not that type of a incident. It's not like, oh, I lost a job and I just need to go get another one, but I need to get over that moment.
Right.
This doesn't work that way. We get another job is not the same way as having lost a child, because the child never comes back. Even if you were to have
another one,
more children, that doesn't replace Brianna. It would be another child, child number 3, but it would not be Brianna part 2.
Right.
There's no Brianna part 2.
Right.
Brianna's life stands on its own. For that period of time. So what stage? Well, that's you already kind of answered that. What stage you feel like you're in, kind of moving towards acceptance? But is it like a hybrid? So you're still kind of in any of the other ones, or
that's what I was gonna say. You still have things that come back. You have things that linger. The anger is a huge part for me.
Who are you angry with?
Everyone.
Okay.
Everyone.
Sorry, I better go. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I mean, it comes and it goes. Holidays come, and I see.
Yeah, we're heading that way.
Yeah. People, enjoying their family or taking their family for granted.
Wow.
So, those things make me angry. I don't know. I hear people talking negative about their child and stuff like that. That makes me angry, because I'm like, but you get one.
Yeah.
You still have yours, and but at the same time, like I said before, I try not to have a chip on my shoulder because I lost my child. It doesn't mean that what everybody else is going through isn't important to them. It's just maybe not important to me all the time, but that's something there's a lot to be gained when you lose a child, if you really want to gain it. You know what I mean? The perspective that you gain is like so great. You don't have to walk around hating life and being angry at everything. You can see the beauty in life and the beauty in death, actually.
Wow. You
know what I mean? Because as we die, we transcend to a whole nother realm. There's beauty in that.
There is.
Yeah. I know. I'm just like, So, but I kind of get stuck in anger. Sometimes depression comes, you know. There's moments of denial that still linger. That's why I haven't gone through her clothes. You see, so because somewhere if I get rid of her stuff, then it is like I'm getting rid of her, a part of her, and I can't. I don't want to. So I hold on to it all. So when people are like, oh, and they've had their room like that for 20 whatever years, okay. Is it hurting you for them to have their room like that? I mean, sometimes we could hurt ourselves by staying in a stage too long, because then it doesn't allow us to grow and go to a different part, so that we could still find our own purpose in this world, you know. So
but getting back to the anger part, is there anyone specific? Like, did you find angry? You find yourself angry with God or the doctors?
The doctors.
Okay.
I was angry. Still am. You know.
Understandable.
Yeah, because then he became the chief of, you know, where he was and stuff. I'm not going to name hospitals or whatever, but, you know, he became the chief. The fact that he didn't diagnose her with type 1 diabetes, but that he specializes in childhood diseases. I'm angry. How could you miss that? You know what I mean? But then I think, how could I miss that? I think the one person that I'm probably the most angry at would be myself. Really.
Why yourself?
I don't know. I mean, I do know, but because we're parents. As parents, our job is to nurture and to keep our child safe. That's a job that I feel like no matter what anyone says, that I failed. I failed at that. You know, so, but, you know, and it's guilt is a big part of the anger. You know, they go hand in hand. So I don't know, but I'm trying to work through that. Definitely have been mad at God throughout time. Angry with Him. That'll be discussed more on the angry. On the next stage of anger. I did. I think it's important. And I'll just say this because I feel like I know what you're hinting at a little bit. Maybe you're not hinting, but it's okay to be angry with God. I mean, I don't know, but, you know, but I just think it's okay to be angry with God. It's okay to be real and to say, you know, I feel like in this area, you know, why did you let me keep my kid? You know, how could you be so cruel to me to let my child be taken? Seriously, that's what you believe. And then you kind of feel like, did you do something wrong? Is it a punishment? And then, you know, it's a lot of feelings and things that you go through and you try to process. I don't know, but behind anger is always hurt at the core of it all. It's just that you're in such rage and anger because really you're so deeply hurt, you know, and maybe can't communicate that all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wasn't really going to a specific place with that. I just thought it was important to uncover whether or not that was the case, because if you dealt with the anger with God, I think it's important for people to know that that's a legitimate feeling. Some people, because of our religious backgrounds or what have you, may be stuck or maybe like, oh my God, but how do I express that to God? And quite honestly, I believe He wants you to.
Right.
He wants you to express yourself and be authentic, and not caught in the restraints of religion and feel like we can't express ourselves authentically to God. Actually, if we can't express ourselves authentically to Him, we're not likely to do it too well with too many everyone else.
Or
others.
even with ourselves.
Well, yeah, that's really
You know what I
that's
mean?
probably one of the biggest keys is really coming to grips
Terms
even with like even as you've gained more understanding of things. I don't know. Did you already know about the 5? Did you know?
I did.
You knew about the stages before? Oh, that's right. Your background, education.
Yeah, psychology. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I kind of already knew about the stages, but to
What
read
your
about them
degree
and
in?
process them is totally different.
Oh, I'm certain. That must have been interesting too, because you learned about it, and then suddenly we're walking in something
Right.
that you weren't expect. Obviously, I mean, you may expect to walk in it someday,
But you know
but
what?
not with.
I'm gonna just say what is crazy is
Okay.
that I do believe like everything happens how it's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Even me losing my child. That's just my feelings. I'm just because some people don't feel that way, and that's a really hard pill to swallow when you lose
I
your
would
kid.
imagine.
But I just think about it. Like I took psychology classes, had death and dying classes, had dreams about Brianna dying since she was 2. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
not near her time of death, because I probably would have been more aware. But when she was 2, I had dreams of her dying. When she was 5, I had dreams of her dying where I found her dead. So imagine that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm just saying that the way things happen, and even those death and dying classes and bereavement classes, even though it's like totally like you have to experience it, it's not the same as reading it in a book.
Mm-hmm.
I do think though that they help me somehow. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They help me be able to understand and to process and things like that. So
Wow.
yeah.
So, we talked. Well, I started to mention Zanai earlier, and obviously you lost your firstborn, but then you have Zanai. How have you had to help her, or have you been able to witness those same stages in her to some degree, and how do you feel like you were able to, or what maybe would you share with someone else to help other siblings walk through their grief?
So now it goes to grief therapy
Mm-hmm.
because I don't understand how it is to lose a sibling.
Okay.
I know how it is to lose a child. And because I'm dealing with my own grief, it's hard for me, I guess, like, I might not be at the place that she's at.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So she wants to put up Christmas trees every year. That's something me and Brianna did. After I tried the first year and talk about denial for a second, and I thought that she was around Brianna, I'm saying. I was looking for her around the Christmas tree because I was decorating a Christmas tree, and that was something that her and I both did. And then when I didn't see her, even though I knew logically she was gone, a part of me was still like, well, why? I don't understand why she's not helping me, because my brain was in denial.
Mm-hmm.
And then so my boyfriend at the time had to tell me she passed away. And I just like broke down. I couldn't believe I had to come back to this reality where she didn't exist. And I say all that to say because tonight, after that year, I said I didn't want to do a tree. She still wanted to do a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me helping her process her grief was saying, okay, even though I don't want to do it and I can't, I called my friend to help her put up the tree.
Okay.
That next year
Mm-hmm.
and the next year. And so I think that that's a big part that you have to be aware of, that you don't have to do everything the other person, like your child wants to do to remember their sibling, but at the same time you have to give them a way to process their grief as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's important.
That's a good point.
You
yeah,
know,
to
and
separate the two.
right.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find myself doing things that I don't necessarily want to do either. Like every birthday, Brianna's birthday, Zanai wants to blow out a candle and sing happy birthday and do all this stuff. And I just want to act like the day kind of doesn't exist. Let's get by it. Let's, because it's so hard for me to process that another year I don't get her in. What else am I missing? And all that stuff. And So I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do a candle with her at the restaurant. We usually go out for dinner and we talk and we spend time together, and then we get a little, they clap and they whatever. So they bring out a piece of cake and then we put a candle in it and we sing happy birthday to Brianna. And so sometimes I think that you just have to be mindful of your child's where they're at with their grief and where they're at with remembering their sibling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what I kind of recommend, that you just be aware of what your child needs. I knew I wasn't equipped, so I sent her to a therapist.
Was that right away?
Yes.
Okay.
I also know that although I might not want to keep up with traditions, I allow her to. Okay. You know what I mean? I also know that sometimes you gotta bite the bullet and do some things to support your child in their grief. So I might not want to sing happy birthday every year to Brianna, but yet I'll do it because it helps my existing child process their grief, and that's important. And so even after we sing the happy birthday and do all that stuff, she's aware of my needs too, where we'll go home and I can have my moment to just be in bed, for the rest of the night. I don't have to entertain, I don't have to do anything. And so it's a balance,
That's fine.
I was sorry, a lengthy answer to your question,
that's
but
perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I was curious, how did it, because I know based on how many years are they apart in age?
21 months.
21 months. Okay.
Yeah.
So here,
22 months.
So how did it impact Zanai when she got to the age, or maybe got past the age?
Brianna, yeah. It was difficult, it was hard. She had fears of her own death at that time. Wow. She felt guilty somewhat of making it past a certain age. Of making it past a certain age that her sister didn't. I think she wanted to do a whole lot that people didn't understand when they were telling me, because she had dyed I let her dye her hair blue. She got a henna tattoo and stuff, and people were like, "Oh, you're just letting her go wild because your guilt that Brianna died." And I'm like, you don't understand. She needs to do this. I didn't explain this to them. I know my kid, but I knew that she needed to do it because of her fears that I need to get everything in case I don't make it past 13, 14. Like, I knew that. So I'm like, a henna tattoo ain't hurting anybody. Dyeing your hair, you could do that. Certain things that before I probably would have been like, no, you're not going to do that, because I was kind of the more strict parent, but at this point, I'm like, you need to know that, you got to do these things before, in your mind, it might be too late. And if that makes you more comfortable, then I'm okay. Let's do that. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like you said, it's a small thing relative to what a person may be dealing with.
Yeah. And I think, she was 11 at the time.
Okay.
So that was the big deal. And I get what people were saying, but they didn't understand that this 11-year-old had just dealt with an adult situation. You know what I'm saying? And to me, it was 2013. I was 33. If at 33, I was trying to process it, imagine an 11-year-old trying to process that.
Yeah, quite honestly, I can't even imagine. I'm 50, and I can't imagine losing, a sibling.
Right.
Like, I can't even know. I mean, I only grew up with one of them, but I can't imagine getting a call.
Right.
I mean, I know it's possible, but I can't imagine having to deal with that call.
Right.
I can't even imagine what that would have been like at 11.
And that it was here one day and gone the next.
Yeah, it's
what I'm saying? Life in general.
Yeah.
That, your sister was here one moment, and then the next moment, gone.
She's gone.
You were just in a bunk bed with her, just hoping that, and routinely used to her getting up. So for her to just not be there, go dye your hair. Go get a henna tattoo. Go if that's the worst of what I gotta deal with because of your own fears of not making it to 13. Like, think about what I'm saying here.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and people didn't understand that, but I knew. And I didn't care to explain that to them. They could cast judgment. They could say whatever. You're not living in this realm that we're, this life and this dimension without Brianna that we are. To that degree, you know? But, sorry.
So how was Zanai today?
Better. Still struggling, but she's better. She's still reaching milestones. So, you know, learning to drive and going on college tours and doing things like that, which her sister always talked about ushering her in one. And they did have these conversations. So, you know, Brianna was like, oh, yeah, because you're going to stick with me through high school, and we're going to be here, we're going to do this. Yeah. So now to be enduring those things or coming up on those things without her sister is, I'm sure for her, is bittersweet. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I mean, she's enjoying it. Trust me, she's had me on the road trying to drive, but at the same time, I know it's difficult, you know, for her.
Okay, just a couple more questions. You mentioned one time that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you talked about the dynamic of people stop talking about Brianna. How does that? Share a little bit about that, like how that feels or how it impacts you. That. What you were conveying by talking about that. Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, just to not talk about her, you know. I don't know why people think. I mean, I guess for them it's helpful because they don't have to be bogged down with the truth of it all when they have no way to fix it. As people, we always want to fix things. We want to, you know, what's your problem? Oh, let me, or can I help in this way or do that? When there comes a time when there is no fix, then the next thing you do is deny it. I was just saying, right? If you can't, I mean, there's a few ways you could remedy it, but I think sometimes people they just don't, it didn't exist, or we don't have to talk about it, or whatever's in their mind.
So you prefer, like, for them, at least at this point, for just talking about it freely, like if they're talking about memories or something like that, to just speak.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. But I think that you have to know your person. You know, whoever you're interacting with that lost a child, you have to know when to say things, when not to say things. I mean, if my child just died yesterday, I don't know if it's appropriate now for you today, you know, to then say something. Oh, remember when like I don't know. There's a timing of it all, and I think that that's probably part of the issue is that people don't know what to say, so they don't say anything. Yeah. But then never mentioning my child
feels safer, I think.
Yeah, but never mentioning my child is probably the worst thing you could do. Because then it's like your child never existed. And how could people operate that way when they knew how much she meant to me?
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. You knew how much my child meant to me. Like, they were, you know, I guess speaking on behalf of a lot of grieving parents, they were our world. How could you not talk about the number one thing in my world? But we have all these other aimless conversations that to me mean nothing. You know
it's probably so hard to try to figure out how to re-engage kind of that level of dialogue to even know what, like you said, we don't know what to say.
Right.
They
but if I'm, but I guess for me, if I'm talking about my child, for you to retract.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying? If I'm talking about my child, that means I'm opening up the door for you to share a memory.
Okay.
If I'm talking about my child and then you ask me how the weather is or how about them Eagles, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, what's up with the Eagles?
Yeah.
But
how about them Eagles? Yeah. But anyway, listen. but anyway, you know, if the door is open, walk through the door. Okay. That's my advice for people. If I open the door and I'm talking about her, come on in. Let's walk through this door together. If you're afraid, you don't know what to say, then don't say anything. But then you might allow me to just talk about her or whatever. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going on and you don't know what to say, then just listen. Because a lot of times we're not looking for people to fix stuff because there is no fix. Trust me, if there was one, we tried it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Think about that too. If there was a way to fix it, we have tried. So we're not looking for you to fix it. It's okay. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have
like
to.
You said,
fix
it's
it.
like this natural tendency to try to do that, to try to be a fix. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the foundation.
Okay, so I started a foundation after Brianna died called Filling Buckets for Brianna, and it actually is to help grieving parents that have lost children with funeral costs and headstones. And the way that it got started was that after Brianna died, I found a poem she wrote about filling buckets and giving into people's lives. And she said, no one should have an empty bucket because we all have something to give. And so with that, I formed Filling Buckets for Brianna. And the reason it's called Filling Buckets for Brianna is because we want to continue to fill buckets where she left off. She gave into people's lives. She felt like nobody should be empty. And we want to continue to give into people's lives for her. So Filling Buckets for Brianna.
Okay.
I know, I'm so excited about it.
So her nickname.
What?
Can you share that?
What? Which ones?
Well, the only one.
Oh, Brizo?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, that actually was developed from my friend Faith. We used to just call her Brizo all the time when she was little, and it stuck. She went with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So. Did it have a meaning, or it just was kind of playful way of saying her name?
Yeah, just a playful way. Yeah.
Okay. So, any final thoughts that you want to share regarding Brianna, the grief process in general?
I mean, I guess I just say denial is the first stage you go through. Don't feel bad if you're in the stage of denial. Is the way that your brain is protecting itself so that you don't have too much trauma coming in all at once. But at the same time, if you don't get out of the stage of denial, then you don't allow yourself to be in a place to grow. And I think that it's important for us to grow so that we can not just heal ourselves, but bring healing to other people. So,
okay.
That's it.
And how can folks get in touch with you? Well, I mean, if they're watching this video, I guess they'll have some indication. I imagine some of that information will be in
my links below. Yeah,
But can they find you on social media somewhere?
Yeah, Instagram. I'm on Instagram. It's actually Life After Losing My Child. Of course, the YouTube channel I have here. And that's about it for right now.
Okay.
Great.
Well, thank you for sharing all of this with us. You were able to work through it, I see.
Yeah,
it came through.
I know.
Yeah, and so much more for you to share as you're going forward. And guys, certainly stay tuned, subscribe, make sure I'm on the right channel, and hit the notification so that you find out when Lydia's posting up new videos, so that you guys can be a part of that. And you can follow along and certainly share it with other folks that you know are going through or have gone through a similar situation where they may have lost a child. And regardless of what stage they're in, they can appreciate being able to come together and kind of share each other's stories and see what other people are going through that they can relate to.
Yeah, of course. And also, just feel free to comment and be able to, I want to build a community for us to support one another and inspire one another. I say that at the beginning of every video, but it's really true. And to get honest about grief, and that's kind of, like I said, the part or reason why I did it this way is to really just be kind of candid and open about how I feel about losing my child. And also I want to hear back from you, so leave a comment, subscribe. I hope to hear from you soon. I'll be leaving links below for you to get to the initial video, the intro of Grief Comes in Waves, and also where you can find me on social media. Instagram is Life After Losing My Child. You can look there, but like I said, I'll put it below. All right, talk to you soon. See you next time.